my name's Brian Fargo, and I have two Kickstarter projects that have been done so far. The first one was Wasteland 2, which we did last year, and then just recently Torment, Tides of Numenera. Well, I've been wanting to do a Wasteland 2 sequel for 20 years, and the first one was done back in the late 80s, and I was looking and pursuing and trying to find a way to get it financed through the typical routes for publishers to do it, and I really got nowhere. But the fans were constantly asking me about whether I would be doing a sequel. I would go to Asia, I'd go to Europe, no matter where I went, people were constantly asking about it. So I knew there was a demand, but there was no way to get there. There was always gatekeepers. It was either a retailer that didn't want us to get there, or it was the publishers who had the financial strings. So as soon as I saw crowdsource funding start to raise more money than just $10,000 or $20,000, I immediately saw that as an opportunity. So I jumped on it right away and took it out to Kickstarter, and then we asked for $900,000, and we hit our funding goal in 43 hours. Well, I was very nervous going into that first Kickstarter because it meant so much. I mean, I didn't see any other way to get this game made except through this source. I had tried 90 other things, and so this was the Hail Mary for us. So there was a lot of nervous energy for that. Our expectation was, I mean, we just hoped we were going to make our goal. So when we made it in just 43 hours, it was unbelievable. I mean, and then it just kept going, and then it sort of, and then everything really clicked for me in terms of the power of what this kind of represent from a future funding and having creators controlling their own intellectual property, which is a huge part of it. Yeah, well, when we first started that morning, I was like, don't anyone tell me the numbers. I didn't want to hear about it. I was so nervous, but I'm getting text messages, 100,000, 200,000, you know, the money was just rolling in. I think we did like 400,000 the first day or something. But I was still too nervous. I felt like the next day it was going to drop. I mean, you know, there was all this anxiety. Once we hit the funding number, and then it just was keeping going, and then the comments. I mean, it was via Twitter and via the comments on the Kickstarter of people who were, they were as excited as I was, basically. And so when I felt that dynamic, I thought this is something else. This is a real game changer. Well, I think there was a number of factors that helped it to succeed the way that it did. One was certainly my background in terms of credibility. I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm not some new guy. I have a long resume of products to look at, so there's, I think, some trust, and trust and faith is a big part of Kickstarter. So I had that element going for me, but more importantly, it was that they wanted this kind of game. You know, part of Kickstarter is you've got to do something that resonates, that these people want. Had I gone there and said I want to do an Angry Birds clone, we wouldn't have funded. I don't care what my background was. And so there was a part of the market that was not being serviced at all by the major publishers. There was also, I think, partly a frustration with some of the business practices of the publishers that are doing sort of selling product at full price and then trying to get you to do in-app purchases, and so there's some frustration level. So we represented a certain kind of product that they've been wanting for a long time. And I think that helped really drive us to the success that we had. It's important to realize that people talk about, like, you know, from a publisher perspective, how they look at it. You know, our success on Kickstarter would be their definition of disaster. You know, because even if we throw on Kickstarter, let's say we pre-sell 50 or 60,000 copies. I'm trying to equate it, right? And then we go out and we sell afterwards another 50 or 100,000. You know, for those guys selling 10, 20 million copies of a game, that's just not worth their time. So our success, definition of success, is very much sort of a failure for them. So again, that sets us up to have sort of a unique place. For us as a business model, it couldn't be better, because you're able to vet out the ideas. You know, everybody always says, I'd love to have this, or I'd love to have that, or why don't you do this? But it's not till they vote with their dollar till you really know what the true interest is. So first, it vets the concept. We don't want to be working on games that people don't want to play. We'd much rather work on a game that people are dying to get their hands on. So it helps kind of set that part aside so that we know there's interest. Then what you've got, every dime we raise goes into the production. We don't look to make a profit from the Kickstarter money. So whether it's 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, every dime goes right into the product. More music, more sound, more graphics, deeper gameplay, whatever the points are. And so, but what you've got then is you've got a product that's financed. And so then now you're rolling out into the market with a game that's already been paid for. So from a pure business perspective, of course, that's great. You've got it pre-vetted, it's been prepaid, and now you're going into the market without sort of being in the hole that you got to crawl your way out of had you put in millions of dollars of your own money. And also from a consumer perspective, they all got a game that they specifically wanted, and in most cases they got a game for less money than they would have paid had they bought it when it came out, you know, originally. So or when it finally came out. A great role-playing game can sell 500,000 or 1 million copies. So I perhaps only addressed 5% of the market. There's 95% more of the people out there that would love to see it, and they didn't back it because they didn't know about it, or they don't like Kickstarter or whatever. But there's a large group of those people, so we want to try to get to those people through digital sales, like through Steam and some of the other services. The audience, the people that who've helped finance it and help make it, because remember, there's been a constant communication. Now they're like this unbelievably excited sales force. And they are going to help us communicate it because they were part of it. Because even though we've only begun the communication, right, we still got alpha testing and beta testing. We have lots more back and forth. So by the time we get to a finished product, it's going to be beaten up, left, down, and sideways, and they're all going to sort of sign off on it in a way. You know, at least all the people that sign up for beta tests, which generally that represents the greater group. So they're going to get something that they love, and you know they're going to talk about it. So it's the ultimate in viral marketing too. We are far more efficient making a game through crowdfunding than we were doing a development through a publisher. Because crowdfunding, there's this trust system that's set up. It's that here's the money up front, we believe you, we trust you, let's do it together. And so we're not jumping through hoops to create demos or make milestones to get paid and all the kind of the typical things that you have to do in order to get paid from a publisher. And so our efficiency is probably 25 or 30% more. Now, it's also a very personal process for what we're doing. I mean, you know, boom, Brian Fargo, you're on the front lines of the war. They're looking at me to deliver, and that's very daunting. I feel the pressure. However, that's buoyed by the fact that I'm in this constant communication, so I'm not in the dark trying to, you know, do one of these and guess what they want. So I feel more confident for my ability to deliver because I have that communication. I think the important part, though, as you solicit that, is you need to figure out which things you should be talking about or listening to and others that you wouldn't. There are some things that are core to the product that you have to stay true on. And the users, they're right there saying, yes, do what, you know, do that. Stay to what's important to you. Don't just listen to everything we say. But there are other parts you do need to test. So it's important for me as the producer to know which things I should be vetting and which things I should not be. Typically, with a publisher, you have a contract that you have to deliver certain milestones. And if you're late, you're going to pay penalties. You have a threat of litigation. There's a lot of kind of nasty stuff. So there's a lot of pressure to deliver. Not necessarily healthy pressure to deliver, but pressure. When you're fan-funded, you've got pressure to deliver because you take the responsibility of their money extremely seriously. But you know what they always say? If you need a couple extra bucks, just get it right. Don't worry about it. Just, we're behind you. Don't worry about it. And it's interesting because I find that when I work with the crowd, my goals are more in line with them than when I'm doing development work for a publisher. We both just want a great game. That's all we want. You know, whereas when you're doing development, yeah, they want that, but maybe, yeah, they want to make a quarter, or maybe there's some politics involved. There's lots of other things that could come into play that are not pure. When I'm working with the crowd, it's pure. Just make a great game. Period. End of story. And again, that's what makes it so wonderful.